could take that. You could turn the light down a little bit. Just take the not turn it down that way. Just actually turn the light.
Turn it. Which one's
Yeah,
causing?
Here we go. All right, buddy. This is what happens when Bill plays with the lighting.
Sorry.
It's all right. We're gonna just go. Let's take one. Let's do that.
Okay.
There you go. No glare. There we go. No glare at all.
Well. Glare. All right.
You could take it down.
I don't know if that's where it's coming from. Is it coming from that light?
Oh no, maybe it's coming from here. Watch this. Let's do this. How's that?
That's better. Thank you.
There we go.
Yeah.
No glare now. Well, there we go. Everybody just saw the lighting set up here.
Yeah.
Right before your eyes. So it's another day.
It is another day.
So I was listening to the commentary podcast, and they were talking about Sarah Young, the new New York Times editorial board writer, who had the tweets about white people. And
I didn't read that, but I saw that there was she doesn't like white people.
Well, I mean, she says it's ironic, and it's sort of like she's sort of like mimicking, the sort of tweets she got. I don't know. I haven't delved deep into her.
I just saw there was a controversy. I don't think.
But
I've read.
Jonah Goldberg said, "Well, she's hired to be a tech writer, and I read some of her stuff on the Verge on tech writing, and it was quite good." But apparently she wrote this long column about Kindle Unlimited, and how like certain novelists, particularly in the romance genre, are like putting all these blank pages in their books to make their books look longer than they are and get quicker read times and more reads, and that the romance genre, which used to be kind of nice and collaborative, is now as cutthroat as everything else in American society.
I can't say that I have read in that genre very much.
Well, in the
Romance.
tech or romance?
Romance. I haven't really done either, or neither.
Yeah, I think I maybe want to read some of her tech columns.
Well,
actually,
your mother-in-law is a romance novelist.
Christian history, historical fiction with a kind of a, but the romance, she would say historical fiction, but there are sexual and romantic undertones and undertones. I guess tones.
Yeah. In the past, they were having sex, right?
Well, that's why we have a past.
There we go.
Or that's why we have a present.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because I suppose that would be. So there you go. We were just watching Don Jr. on the television for a second.
Really, make a daddy proud, right there.
Yeah, collusion's not a crime. Even if we colluded, it's like there was no collusion. Now collusion's not a crime. Now we got the info. We didn't use it.
Just trying to care for the Russian kids.
It's just interesting, like, at what point, it's the boy that cried wolf kind of pride. At what point do the lies stop? Like, I feel like you just assume that there's more lies to come, that we haven't, you know what I mean? Like,
no. Whether we don't have to even assume there's more lies to come, it's a guarantee. By the way, I've come to the conclusion that Steve Miller must have asked out, like the exchange student in high school. And she may have failed with
yeah.
I think anybody foreign, he just has he keeps trying to find new and awful ways to be. So whoever you were out there that either turned down Stephen Miller for the prom, or any of you maybe exchange students from Belgium who locked him in a locker or something like that.
Right, you should be friend him on Facebook and be nice.
Make it right. See if you can just do it. Just try to say, hey, we're sorry that we made fun of you. Maybe there were maybe those Venezuela students at Duke.
Yeah, I mean, do this for your country.
Do it for humanity. Say, Stephen, we're sorry if we had anything to do with you turning out to be subhuman.
Hey, he's not subhuman. We're all human. You know.
I'm going to need I want a DNA sample.
He's human. He is made in the image of God.
That was a bad day for God.
Yeah, well.
Let me just check. I've got a dad at the hospital. Let me check that.
Jill's checking his phone. Release the hounds. Bill's has this very loud ring. Was not urgent.
That was not urgent. I turned it off this time. Sorry.
The man behind the curtain.
Man in the mirror. Yeah, it probably wasn't nice calling him subhuman. That was probably not nice.
He does have a large. I mean, it's very interesting, the way they draw. I was watching for the first time My Cartoon President,
Yeah.
and the way they draw Showtime is very interesting. The way they draw him is quite interesting. They do quite good
He
characters.
could be an alien, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's potential. It's theoretical
Yeah.
possibility.
He'd be a legal alien though. He would have gotten his papers from Mars.
Yeah, I mean, or wherever, from a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah. So. Yeah, there we go.
There we are.
By the way, I saw the guy Sunday interviewed Corey, what's his face, the plastic gun guy. He was interviewed on Fox News Sunday. He was more interesting than I thought he would be. It's very like he's kind of like weird and irritating, but there was something about him that we want Lily. This is Matthew Patriotism. I know we got to get Lily back on, Matthew. There was something about his like kind of contrarian smartassism that I found like interesting, where he was like, well, look, it's not illegal to make guns in this country. You can make a gun in your own house and don't have to put a serial number on it. And he had these, why don't we just ban making guns at home? Why don't the lawmakers? And I thought, the one interesting thing is this guy is challenging lawmakers to understand the laws, which I think is good, even though I don't think it's good that he's uploading. Although his guns do have the requisite amount of metal to be detectable.
Oh, good.
But others, I mean, there's already these blueprints on these 3D printing things on the web.
I've been building a tank in my house. I've gotten the tread thing. I've gotten kind of that's harder. That's harder than you would think it would be.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it would be very hard.
I just thought there's a kind of I think there's a bit of an arms race in my neighborhood, so I'm just going for the tank.
I like that.
Yeah,
I'm into that.
Someone said, who put something on? I saw someone had like a church tank. Did you see that meme or something of a drawing on Facebook?
Not a dunk tank, but a church tank.
I don't want a church tank. I just want a straight up tank.
All right, I'm not against that for you.
Well, I mean, it just seems to be maybe that could be a deterrent when for any particular holiday where the guns come out.
All right.
Yeah. So anyway.
Tanks. There we go.
so maybe if I make a plastic tank.
Yeah. That would defeat the purpose.
That would not be. That would.
The tank.
There was in my home. Letterkenny Army Depot was the leading employer in my county where I grew up in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, and they did repaired tanks and armored stuff. And there was a tank that got stuck on the railroad tracks, and the train hit the tank, and the tank was fine. The train was destroyed. Pretty good.
Wow,
that was a good tank.
Well, at what point do you think tanks will become like drones? Like people in Omaha will be running the tanks.
I don't know. That's good. I don't understand.
Omaha or Colorado, like a lot of times the people that are flying the drones are here in the continental United States.
Right. Okay.
So I'm just saying, like, at what point will tanks be remote controlled, where you won't have to be in the country to run the tank?
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. But maybe, yeah, that's interesting. So you could just you're you're somewhere at Command Central and just doing the tanks.
When we have that, then we will just always be at war. Like once we can make it so we don't see human casualties, we'll just go to war for no reason.
I think that'll probably be then the next week the killer robots will rebel and then it's over.
Elon Musk, somebody tweeted to Elon Musk, "What's the big deal about artificial intelligence? If the robots come to kill you, you just throw water on them." And Elon Musk goes, "Shit, you're right."
It's like that
water,
it's
just
like
a little
goofy,
water.
Horror movie about what's his name, the filmmaker who made I See Dead People, but
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, when they had the aliens come and it turned out that just you throw water on them, they die.
Yeah, water is always
that was poor alien planning.
Yeah,
if you come to a planet where everything is mostly made
mostly
of
water.
Yeah.
Those are not the sharpest.
There were alien bureaucrats that probably lost their tentacles over that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much for Stephen Hawking's theory that if aliens ever came, that it would be like we were indigenous Americans and they were like the advanced technology kind of colonializers coming. Well, not those aliens.
Yeah.
They were not the aliens Stephen Hawking thought was.
There we go.
So you want to get into it?
Let's jump.
If you can't, what does T.S. Eliot say? If you can't get out of it, get into it.
There we go.
I don't know if that was Eliot. I think it was, but
if it wasn't, it should have been.
it should have been. All right, here we go. Oh, what episode are we on? Jeffrey Carter just tuned in. Hey, Jeffrey. Jeff, I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, hi, Jeff.
He's leaving Frito-Lay.
Oh, no.
It's a bummer. I mean, he's going for greener pastures and to expand his own vocational sense of
Well,
life.
good for you, that.
But, you know, I like that we had a Frito-Lay
I
connection.
do. I love. Yeah. Frankly, I thought of you every time I ate Fritos
Yeah.
and Tostitos.
What is Jeff saying there? Aliens that were the victims of fake news. Fake news aliens. These aliens, they got their scoop from the failing New York Times. Very sad. Failing New York Times.
That's funny.
Did you see Brett Stevens' column? He got threatened. Somebody threatened him because of his Trump statements.
No, I didn't see
And he was basically saying, like, look, Trump, like, this is going to... He was really hard on Trump and journalists. Like, this is not good. Like, this is the second time I've ever been threatened. And the first time the guy was picked up on a crime. He's like, and I'm not the only journalist. Like, this is... And he's a conservative being
Right.
threatened.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently, I didn't look at it, but apparently online there's... This guy plays all the threats CNN folks have gotten.
Don't threaten us.
Now, because I'm building a tank.
Yeah, I'm not building anything. So I don't want to be scared.
That's right. If you go after Scott, you have to get through me and my tank.
Well, you get the treads on it first. It's several miles away. I don't know how good that's going to do me.
All right, let's stall. If you're going to come after us, wait a while.
All right,
until
wait
we
a
get this
while.
done.
All right, here we go.
There
That's what episode, 230. This is episode 231. All right, here we go. Welcome back to the show. This is episode 231. I'm Scott Jones.
And I'm Bill Bohr. You know, we're dangerously close to 250. That feels like a milestone.
What is that? What is the abbreviation for that? Or not the abbreviation, but the Mark Oppenheimer said happy congratulations on our bicentennial when he was on. What would that be? That would be our
150 sesquiquential. So bisequential.
Quarter of I don't know.
No,
Or a quarter to 1,000.
We'll have to look that up. But we have a few episodes to look that up.
We have precisely 19.
Yeah. So if any of you have any...
Did you see that? I did that right in my
You
head.
did that really quick. If any have any suggestions how we should celebrate 250, let us know. That would be fun. That might be we could take we could do a viewer thing.
We could do. There's many.
I guess we're on Facebook Live, but we aren't audio.
Yeah, we are an audio.
This is a podcast.
You could be video. They do video podcasts.
Well, we're on YouTube, right?
We're on YouTube.
Yeah,
we're on YouTube.
There we are. So
many venues.
Yeah, but first of all, I want to thank all of you who have sent your prayers and regards about my father who had a stroke last Friday. A pretty remarkable turnaround yesterday. He kind of woke up, and it actually was one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced. I mean, it ranks there with the birth of my children. So, it's something I'll write about, but it was really profound. So, I mean, he is said, he's coming along. We just have to wait to see how much damage was done. But he, from what I thought yesterday morning, the difference between yesterday morning and yesterday afternoon was about as radical as it could be. So he's eating, he's up, sitting, his memory seems to be coming back. He's talking, and so thank you for your prayers and continued good thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. And we're glad you're back here in the 215.
Yeah, I know. I'm becoming very familiar with the Pennsylvania Turnpike.
Yeah, it's not one of my favorite roads.
Well, it's beautiful farm country there for a while in Lancaster. So, at any rate.
It is, but it's not. It's not my favorite.
Yeah, I'm getting a little tired of it, but we do it. Just thankful that thankful that he's here, and hopefully it continues to improve. So you called me last week, and I love this idea, by the way. I can't remember one of the many things that the news cycle runs so quickly that whatever was the initial inspiration. There's been 3 or 4 since then. But
the news cycle and the Fox News cycle, both of which I stay dialed into But
I was actually working out this morning and at the gym, CNN and Fox are right beside each other, and that was interesting to see the sequence of
The
variety
fake news CNN with Don Lemon.
That was, I don't know. I mean, taking on LeBron James.
And this is what's interesting. That to me, I don't get the upside of that, because you like the NFL thing. I mean, I don't. I think it's, I don't agree with the president. I think he probably shouldn't have waded into it. Definitely should. But I get it in the sense of a lot of Americans. It's a middle of the road. People, the flag. People get sensitive about it, and it's.
Right.
But basketball, I don't. Ragging on LeBron. It seems to me you create a controversy that at best, you rally your base, which are already rallied. So politics, as Joe Scarborough says, is a game of addition, not subtraction.
Yeah,
and so what do you get? I mean, you alienate people. You alienated Mike. You got Michael Jordan to speak out, who doesn't do that very often.
You got your wife to speak out against you.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's probably happening more and more.
Yeah,
often.
I would think. Yeah.
But I just doesn't. I don't get the upside of it.
There was none, and it was so overtly racist because he.
Well, the defense on Fox is, he's shitty to everybody. He's shitty to white people. He's shitty to Rosie. He's shitty to It's this kind of it's interesting that this sort of gymnastics people will do.
But there is the history behind attacking the intelligence of African Americans. Oh, right. Yeah, it says a lot about his anxiety. Yeah, I think that anxiety is very real, and considering when the fact that your former campaign director, even as we sit here or stand here, is being eviscerated.
Campaign chair.
What did I say?
What did they say? Like, Chris Hayes was like, basically Gates was like, they were like, did you do crimes? Yes, we did crimes.
Let me count the ways.
Yeah, there were a lot of crimes done.
Yeah. One of the things, maybe this will be the segue into our topic, was I saw, and again, I don't know if this is real or not, but I saw two guys looking like people from Middle America wearing, I'd rather be Russian than Democrat.
Oh, yeah, that was on, I saw that on Twitter. Bill Kristol tweeted that out.
It was fascinating. I mean,
that they were at a Trump rally.
I've lived long enough to go from the fact that the right would say, during the demonstrations against Vietnam, America love it or leave it. Now Democrats are liberals are saying America love it or leave it.
Yeah, it all circles back. You stay around long enough, and it just all circles back around.
Yeah. So you, William Buckley, you were
inspired.
Oh yeah,
it was very interesting because I have been watching these Trump rallies, and
the good thing about him is I don't have to, because Scott keeps me informed.
I do, and what strikes me, I mean, it's always struck me since the inaugural address, which I hear was better in the original German or Italian. I'm not sure which it was. But this sort of nationalist impulse that, which since this is sort of the nationalist populism is how Trump ran, and it seems to be his number one sort of raison d'être. But there's this, Jonah Goldberg has quoted William F. Buckley several times to this end, basically saying something like, Buckley's quote, I think, was something like, "I'm as patriotic as anyone from sea to shining sea, but there's not a molecule of nationalism in me." And that's interesting. And Jonah Goldberg has even at other points said, well, you might need a little bit of nationalism, like it's the romanticism that keeps the sinews together. But basically, what Buckley there is doing is contrasting American patriotism, which is not about blood and soil and just tribal roots, but it's about transcendental ideals that, that basically, if we had to leave the planet and go colonize another planet, we could be just as American.
Right.
Because whereas I don't know that you could say that if you were, Italian or Egyptian or, you think, are part of a great society like India. There's something about even liberal democratic societies that have long pre-modern traditions. There's something about being Italian or French or, from a certain part, or from various parts of the world, you could say, like, that being Japanese, liberal democracy, but there's this great pre-modern Japanese tradition that, you wonder if you could be Japanese in a spaceship the way you could in America, because we don't have that long. Now, certain people like Stanley Hauerwas and Alistair McIntyre and other sort of Enlightenment critics would say that's the problem. Stanley Hauerwas would say America is the only country that has the misfortune of being founded on a philosophical mistake. I am not as much of an Enlightenment critic as Hauerwas. But I think that it is interesting what Buckley's getting at there, that this notion that there's something fundamentally different about American patriotism. That, no, Donald Trump seems incredibly nationalistic, but not patriotic in the sense that Buckley is talking about. So I listened the other day.
I don't think Donald Trump, at least the kind of patriotism that won World War II, he is so contrary to that. The patriotism that was born out of the American Revolution, or the patriotism of Lincoln. All that would be...
Maybe the patriotism that comes out of the World Wrestling Federation. USA, USA, lock her up.
So like,
build the wall.
So
By the way, when is Mexico paying
like Rocky IV?
Why are the Democrats getting blamed for not funding? I thought Mexico was paying for the wall.
No, I know. Yeah, I don't know.
Is Mexico no longer paying for the wall?
I don't think so. But the idea of, let's again flesh this out a little bit more. I think with Buckley...
What? How Mexico's not going to pay for the wall? Yeah, I'll flesh it out more. They're never going to pay for the damn wall. We're just going to run around and make countries pay for it. You know what? And after that happens, we're going to make Chile pay for our Social Security. Wait till you see the stealth bombers. We're going to make New Zealand pay for it.
Or like, remember Chappelle's Black Bush? That skit he did back when he had a show, he was Black Bush.
Yeah, that was amazing.
And so he said, our health care, all going to Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, at any rate. Okay, let's see what Jeffrey says. That point.
Jeffrey A. Carter, this
Yes.
comes to us from Facebook Live, which we're simultaneously broadcasting on. He's coming to us from California.
Yeah, that points to specific racism in American nationalism, doesn't it? Because of the assumption of whiteness and how it's imagined and how the ideals of constitutional republic fall out of the narrative. Yeah, and part of it's just the ignorance of for instance, about 10% of Washington's army was African American, which people don't really understand, don't realize that.
You know what's interesting too, that so much of the Union Army, the Civil War, is African American, but you don't see it in the monuments because the monuments were all locally erected.
Right.
And these regiments, they were translocal regiments, like in the movie Glory. We had these, so like they didn't have their local regiments to memorialize them.
Right. Or like, what's more quintessential Americana than cowboys? And the majority of the cowboys were African American or Mexican.
I knew that because I saw Blazing Saddles. Remember that?
Is that historical fiction?
Remember that where Gene Wilder's like, these people are, they're common folk, the salt of the earth, stupid.
Still very
I love when he and Gene Wilder are playing chess.
Well, there's a great scene in Silverado, which is like the quintessential camping fun cowboy movie, where John Cleese plays the local sheriff, and he's British in the middle of the West. How he gets there, no one explains. And he's playing chess with his deputy. He makes a move. Then he turns the board around and makes the deputy's move for him as well. Oh my goodness!
So this thing, I was watching this rally in Ohio, and I called you after I was trying to keep score of anything moral, and the only thing I could find was that he signed the right to try bill. Come on, these people are sick. Let them try. They're for people that want to go to Europe
or Mexico
for experimental treatments. And So that, and maybe he was one line about
or Miami.
Right. And there was seriously one line about opioids, and so I counted that as a half point. It was really only a sentence, but everything else there was no moral center to it. So it's interesting. You look at this relationship between, say, Europe and China. They're both just competitors. There's no sense in which, well, one shares a sort of liberal democratic ideal with us, and one doesn't. Like, one is actually adversarial in relationship to that ideal and those commitments. So, but it's just sort of, it's again purely nationalistic. I mean, it's sort of pure, like, us versus them. And it's interesting because that, at least at our best moments, which again, the American story is a tragic story, but our best moments, the American ideal is over against that sort of tribe, nation, blood, soil. So there's something transcendent, and it lends itself to reinvention and experimentation. Right? There's always people coming in from someplace else who are embracing that ideal, changing the ideal. The ideal's evolving, and that just, again, the whole. It's really interesting because I just interviewed this guy from my alma mater, John Fee, who wrote this book called "Believe Me." And that's a great title because he's like, that just is like Trump's, sort of, Mona, believe me, the wall, believe me, this, that, we're gonna be so winning. You're gonna be tired of winning. Officially, if this is winning, Bill, I'm tired of winning. If this is winning, put me down as tired of winning. Okay, I'm tired of winning right now. But he says, that the subtitle is "The Evangelical Road to Donald Trump," and he thinks if you look at the history of evangelicalism in America, it's characterized by fear of Catholics, fear of fear of persecution.
The fear of Catholicism was a big factor during the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, right. He talks about that, and fear of certain sort of immigrant parents, secularism. He talks about the desire for power and influence. With some aspirations more noble than others, but the desire to sort of be the court evangelical, shape the culture. And the third is nostalgia, where this sort of American myth, like remaking us as a Christian nation. And I think that kind of nostalgic mythos is something Trump taps into with evangelicals, with the sort of forgotten people that he always talks about, people that are really have been left behind in certain kind of economic development and that sort of thing. Where, I mean, globalization is great in the aggregate, right? But there are real people that are left behind.
Right.
And it's easier to...
Well, that recent podcast you talked about in Give and Take with the author about
the
Mexican book. Yeah.
He's like, well, in this one town, it really was a Mexican air conditioning plant. But most of the time it's automation.
Right.
Or things like that. But it's easier to blame immigrants than it is to blame technology, right? Like, it's just not... Because and then what you do is you take the technology and you curse the immigrants, right? Well, you take the technology that puts you out of business and you tweet MAGA to MAGA.
It certainly was one of the dark spots of the John Adams presidency. That law that was it an anti-sedition law that was passed under?
Oh yeah.
And then of course the Know Nothing Party, which was kind of on the front end, and the other the law, the myth of the lost cause, the Southern lie that the Southerners told themselves that became part of mythology. About the noble cause of the Confederacy, and the Civil War was not about slavery, which is a historical fallacy. I mean, there was a lot of complex things about it, but you can actually trace the development of that falsehood. John Meacham does a good job of it. And we've also got threatened recently. John Meacham was threatened.
Who threatened? John Meacham seems like such a nice guy.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I listened to a podcast, the Tel Aviv Review, and maybe we can put I don't know, it's a book that has not been published yet, but the author is a British, reminded me of the author you interviewed, because he tried to put this book out 8 years ago. No one was interested. But it's on the whole movement of denial, the deniers, whether they be the phenomena of... denying climate change. He does. He's a Jewish scholar, so he does a lot with the Holocaust denial. And one of the things he says is, and he thinks we're almost in the post-denial stage, because why you have deniers, for one, now the reason that the oil companies are deniers, because it's it's economics. The same thing why the tobacco industry put so much money in saying that cigarette smoking didn't cause cancer when they knew it did. He says when it comes to genocide, one of the things about it is that you used to be able in the ancient world you would brag, you would build statues about how you wiped out a people.
Now that's what I call the good old days, when you could really take pride in a genocide.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey, it rhymes. Take pride in the genocide.
yeah. Well, some hopefully, the artifacts that hopefully most of them were saved from the Babylonian, the Assyrian empires, the Roman Empire. I mean, you got statues.
You're gonna hear Donald Trump. I mean, they're taking away our history. We used to be able to take pride in a genocide.
Yeah, but the modern world said you couldn't do that. But the trouble is, we still commit genocide. So you come up with different names for it. But one of the things is, well, it really wasn't that. Well, yes, there were Jews who were killed, but there weren't that many. And there were others. So that you do things like that. Same things happen with, a good example, the post-Yugoslavia breakup, the Bosnians, things like that. There's all kinds of models of deniability. But what's happening, he says right now, is that, the lid's off a little bit. So people don't have to be they're not having to hide the racism. In other words, in terms of, he's talked about the Trump phenomenon, but he talks some about the European phenomenon, and so that is what making America great again is all about.
It really is.
It really is.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that this devolving into nationalism, and it's just interesting that again that Trump is so not shy about playing on. Okay, so if you do feel like you've been left behind with educational, economic,
and we're not talking from the second coming.
From the second coming. No, there is this. The nationalism is a good. It's like an opiate. I mean, it does make you feel better. Again, the sense that we're winning, and also I think this kind of the Sarah Young thing, the woman who had these controversial tweets, who people are saying is racist. I mean, I think that this sort of idea that, hey, the death of sort of the white Protestant majority, this kind of desire for this place of power and, and majority status again, these kinds of things are open to be played on.
But there's no incident in history where nationalism led to anything but destruction, ultimately for the people who have it. I mean, whether you're talking, we don't have to, Germany, Japan, you can go throughout through history.
Luxembourg. Do you know Luxembourg and Belgium, I think, share a navy?
I did not know.
That's so cool.
Is Luxembourg's landlocked, isn't it? Or maybe
it's the Netherlands and I don't know. Somebody in the two of those countries.
It makes sense that the Netherlands and Belgium are kind of the same.
Yeah.
I don't know. Luxembourg has a name. That would be
I thought it was Luxembourg.
That would be a remarkable waste of. Now, see, there's a lot of potential for us. One of us is wrong here. I could be wrong about Luxembourg being landlocked. I think it is.
Do we have any Luxembourgian listeners? If we do, let us know.
All right,
it's possible.
Any of you of Luxembourgian descent?
Yeah.
We'll have you on to apologize for
Absolutely.
our total ignorance of Luxembourg. But I think, in all seriousness, this is really an important distinction to make. It's funny. My earliest memories are, my mom crying when JFK was killed. I was just 3. Watching Vietnam, hearing about boys from I was in West Virginia at the time, boys that never came home from that town, watching it on TV being terrorized by the sights of it as a kid. Watergate, reappraisal of the civil rights movement and both the successes and the unfinished business of civil rights movement. So to say that my opinion of our country is jaded or is correct is not Pollyannish would be an understatement. But I find when I travel abroad, particularly
Freakonomics had a contest for the motto for America, and the one that they chose was America, our best critics stay.
But I do, and I find myself when I'm in other places, I can still remember.
But see, that is American patriotism, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The self-critical nature.
Self-critical nature we are, and yet when we are attacked, we pull together. I still remember being in the Middle East, and some British person was saying, "Well, you Americans have really screwed up the Middle East." I go home and learn your history, because you guys drew the map that made this thing a mess. You and the French. But I find myself, I think that's because our ideals are worth defending. And again, I think as people of faith, this is part of what it means to pray for the prosperity of the city.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think a Christian patriotism always has to be a step further removed.
Right.
In that, it always has to be Jeremiah 29, like seek the shalom of Babylon. I mean, it's always somebody. I was reading Oliver O'Donovan's essay today on Augustine's, on Book 19 of the City of God, and he was saying that some people credit Augustine with this conception of the secular sphere, and that simply is that which is passing away. So the sense in which the earthly city, we seek its good, but we seek its not its peace is not an ultimate good.
No.
It's a penultimate good, and so this is, I mean, the sort of Christian American ought to have this sort of twin check on the nationalism. One, this sort of the Enlightenment sort of DNA that's over against a kind of tribal nationalism, and ultimately this sense that we seek a city with foundations, as the author of Hebrews says, whose architect and builder is God.
Yeah, so I think the American country is going to collapse. The republic will disintegrate someday, and it will disintegrate into something, depending on what causes it.
Luxembourg.
But I'd rather not happen on my watch. I'd rather not be quiet so that it happens on my grandchildren's watch, if there's something we could do about it. So those of you who advocate not being involved as trying to take some sort of moral high ground because of the corruption of the government, that's totally unhelpful and totally misunderstanding the nature of, I think, Christian responsibility in a representative democracy. Those of you who have already bowed a knee to Babylon and your unquestionable support of Donald Trump, you need to repent of that, because that's idolatrous. And I think, there is, and those of you who say that only the Democrat or the Republican is right, that's just absurd. Neither group has any kind of ultimate hold on truth.
And those of you who voted for Jill Stein, wash your mouth out with soap or something.
We're all, Scott and I are bringing the tank, and we're going to run over.
Yeah, if you voted for Jill Stein, hang a fleece out your window. We're going to
do collective punishment. We're going to destroy your house, because you should be destroyed. Your house should be destroyed for that stupidity. But I do think
Gary Johnson I'll forgive, but not Jill Stein.
Right. Gary Johnson was comic relief.
Exactly.
I think Jill Stein, either she was an unintentional puppet of the Russians, or even worse. It could be worse than that. That's the one I want the investigation on. But nonetheless, I think we have to keep working this, because we have other things to make right. For instance, the issue of race in this country, the horrendous history we have, and the kind of continual injustice as we go on, and the violence against African American community that is sometimes a direct and always an indirect response of the evil of slavery. We have to continue to address that. The fact is the chaos that we've caused in the Middle East because of an overextended war that should not have been waged the way it was. Those are things we have to continue to try to make right. And we can't lose our moral voice. And we can't, like people like Vice President Pence and Franklin Graham, say one kind of moral thing, and then as soon as you get close to power, you totally jettison that. That's just, it's all right to evolve in your ideas. It's not all right to kneel.
There's a difference between evolving and devolving.
Yeah, it's not all right to forsake your ideals to be close.
It's like going back into the primordial soup.
Yeah.
Hey, I just grew legs. I want to shed them and slide back into the soup.
Yeah, it's not legitimate to jettison ideals for the sake of being close to power, particularly when that power represents so much that is Antichrist.
But look on the bright side. There's no Scott Pruitt.
There we go.
There you go.
We always
Thanks.
end on the upbeat.
Hope seeking understanding. Thank you, friends.
Peace.
God bless. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in on this. What is this, Tuesday? It is Tuesday,
Yeah,
right?
I tell you, my life's a little blurry right now.
Let's go to Bedford. Let's drive up to, or wait, where's Trump's club?
Oh, Bedminster.
Bedminster. Can you play golf there? Is it?
It's probably, but we could go and just. I would love to show you.
How great would it be to go play golf at Bedminster?
Particularly the way I play. I'm sure I'll take out some windows.
I'm gonna research how much it would cost.
All right, maybe that could be go fund us.
Go fund us, yeah. Go fund us, Go fund Bill and Scott to play at Bedminster.
Oh, that would be, and the pictures themselves.
Oh,
yeah.
Thanks everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
That's a great.